Hello, my fellow artists. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jacqueline Jax, and I have art classes for watercolor artists. So if you're just getting started or you want to learn something new, don't forget to check out my website at jacquelinejax.com. So guys, in the studio, I often have a lot of palettes hanging around, and this was one of my favorite palettes for years. Literally, I did everything from this palette. I remember this as being the first big palette that I pulled into the studio outside of like the tins, and I was crazy about the mixing areas and the division of the mixing areas. I also loved the fact that this palette had a really interesting layout. Like I could lay it next to things like that, and even if I were sitting somewhere, I could actually put my smaller sketchbooks right in there and just kind of like paint right on my lap. So I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was something that I wanted to open up and refill. But here's the thing, is I can't remember what all of these colors are, and it's been so long since I painted with this one that I literally think that I need to clean it out and I need to put in all of the colors that I'm painting with now. But it is kind of interesting to see if I still paint with some of these colors, because some of them I recognize, or if I've completely moved on and for what reason. So when I was doing this, I thought, well, maybe you'd like to see it too. I don't know. So if this is something you want to see, then certainly hang out with me and let's check it out. I'm interested to know too, like why I arranged them the way I did. I'm not really sure. Like usually I do rainbow arrangements, or like a split palette where there's warms and cools, or like I'll put all of the yellows, reds, and pinks in one bay, and in a palette like this, it would be great to have all the blues and greens in another. That didn't happen here. I don't remember if maybe I bought colors and kind of went along a little bit at a time. Maybe that's why it is what it is. But on these ones that are empty, I'm going to full on get some water on them and clean them out, and we'll just swatch the colors and see what is in here. I would have to say that if this is a green, that it is the one of the Daniel Smith colors. And this does look like Cascade green, just a very, very light version of it, because there's obviously nothing left in here. Cascade green was one of my very favorite greens, and I've since, I think, run out of it. So it's interesting that I didn't buy it again. And I think, actually, I might have to put it on my to-do list of bringing that one back into the studio, because I really liked it. I do see so many other watercolors, and it is basically like a cobalt green. So like all of my cobalt greens will really just do fine in replacement, and that's probably why I haven't reordered it. So it would be like chromium green oxide, or any of those beautiful greens will really make that happen. This one looks like I went back and refilled it. So there's like a big blob of paint, but I actually just put it in there so half-heartedly. I'm wondering why. Oh, interesting. So this is, I believe, Deep Sea Green by Daniel Smith, or Undersea Green by Daniel Smith. It's got that really lovely, like really dark texture, almost like a perylene green, but not. Travels well. It's great to have in a palette. This one looks like nickel azo yellow. I'm pretty sure that is. Yep, it is. This is an interesting color because it has like different qualities to it. It goes from like a deeper color where you can actually build it up when it's not really wet. See, and get like that very gold look. I actually still have that one on my palette to this day. This is another one that I know I have on my palette. This is Aussie Red Gold, or Aussie Red, I believe. It's by Daniel Smith. Great color. It's a beautiful orange, really pretty. This is the fugitive color that everybody has in their palette because it's so much fun to use. It's Opera Rose, or Opera Pink. This one, let's see, I have them by Magello, and I also have them by Daniel Smith. I'm looking at my colors here. I believe this is the Daniel Smith one, but you know, I have since kind of gotten away from using this that much. I now will sometimes use it in mixes to brighten something, because remember, it is fugitive. So if you want anything outside of your sketchbook, if you're going to do it for a print, then that's different. That's a great way to get a fluorescent color. But I do have other pinks that I have reviewed on this channel that are completely light fast and really, really nice and bright. Not fluorescent, but really nice and bright, that I'm really happy with. So I have moved on from that one for sure. This is a gorgeous color. I am trying to think by which brand this one would be. It's hard to tell on this one, but it's definitely a magenta. Let me see. It may be quinacridone lilac. It could be quinacridone lilac. It could also be quinacridone rose, except that it's next to the purple, and I usually don't put my quinacridone rose right next to purple if I can help it. I'm looking through my colors, but again, I have a lot of stuff not in tubes anymore, so I think this is quinacridone magenta because it looks just like it. This purple would be either dioxazine purple, or it would be imperial purple. It's imperial purple for sure. And I do still use that one. I love having it in the palette just because it's got that really, really deep color, but then also it can really be washed out and reduced to almost like different shades of purple when it's on 100% cotton paper. So this was, you can see why this was a really fun palette, right? Truly beautiful. Let's see, I need to anchor this down. Let's move this over here. Okay. And I think I'll just slide it under here. There we go. Weighted down. Next, I don't even know. This kind of looks and re-wets like a moon glow or a lunar blue. Sometimes they can be really difficult to tell apart. I believe this one is moon glow because it's got like a little bit of a purple cast, purple gray cast to it. I don't use this one as much. Let me get my swatches. So, to me, yep, it's definitely moon glow. I actually just got a new one called Kyanite, and I love it. It's so pretty. I painted with it on the channel. Next one is, I believe, you can see how cakey, you know, the thing with these Primatex is they go to like bits, you know, so they're really difficult to re-wet, but you gotta like work with them a little bit in the palette and keep them full. And then when you put them in the palette initially, because you can see how they just crack, you want to like try and smooth it out and really get a nice, even, smooth, like hand pour. But when you get down to the end, they really are a pain. That you get all little clumps and junk in them. I love them, but honestly, my Schminke is my favorite for this reason. I never get these little clumps and things. And even the White Nights granulating colors, they're so gorgeous and so beautiful, and they don't do that. But to see what this looks like if it were just coming out of the box, this is a new pour. So mainly, like, I keep this in tubes and I'll have a better representation of it. This is just what happens to it over time. It just kind of gets disappointing, and it really needs to be worked, you know. It's not a very nice representation of it. It's just old. So I'll just get that out of there. Oops. Oh no. Oops. Let's fix this. Good thing I'm painting in the studio. Okay. There. That should hold. Or maybe I'll just put it this way. It's the weight of it. There you go. Okay, so this next one is a green. It could be either serpentine green. This paper is miserable. This is like a wood pulp paper, just like Canson XL. I have a bunch of it in the studio, so when I was practicing making accordion sketchbooks, I did it on this and thinking I would just, use it for junk, and it's literally junk. It's just not. So I believe this one is Green Apatite Genuine. It could be serpentine green as well, but let me see my granulating palette. So it's hard to tell here, and the paint is quite old. It looks more like Green Apatite Genuine because I'm not seeing those browns come out in it, which usually happen with the serpentine green. Oh, well, maybe. No, this looks like Green Apatite Genuine. Okay. Well, this is probably one of my replacement pinks. It's a beautiful pink. So it's got the fluorescence of the Opera Rose. So this is either going to be Quin Rose or it's going to be Rondite. Is it Rondite? And I believe I had that in my palette at the time because I was looking for a replacement, but I also had Quin Rose. Gosh, I wish I could find the thing for that. So I'm not really sure about that one. Let's look for the color swatches. Okay, so on this channel, I have been swatching out all of the dot cards that I have. So you can see how Quin Rose has a gorgeous tone. It's very similar to that, but it looks a little brighter. So I'm thinking it is possibly Rondite or Rhodonite Genuine. It's either Quin Rose or Rhodonite Genuine. I would have to pull my palette and re-swatch these to see, because this is quite like a large amount of it. And I don't know, but it's one of these two. They're both very, very similar to me. One is just kind of, I don't know, it didn't get that dark on this, but maybe quinacridone rose. I would think if I were going to guess it was quinacridone rose. And this looks like to be either a Prussian Yep, this is Prussian blue. Yeah, and even this Prussian blue is mixing with this rosy color, just like quinacridone rose does, to make those like deep moody purples. I love Prussian blue. This is some old gold, so I doubt we're gonna get anything out of this because I don't even think that this is a watercolor. Nope, it's not. So just wet it down really well and we'll clean it out. Dying for a cup of coffee, guys. It's a Monday and I have a bunch of stuff to do today, but I did have on my morning to-do list to clean out this palette, and it's been really bugging me. So there's the gold. It's not doing anything. Let's just get it out of there. Some of these golds, I can't even remember which one this is. I think this was from just a private handmade company. And so I put it in there probably because I wanted to clean my brush. Maybe I was doing something with blue and gold. I just had a lot on my brush at the time. Okay, we're getting there. This, I believe, would be, this back one would be Winsor Newton Indigo. So I'm just gonna wet it really well. And what I'm doing here is, because these are really old, so that I can revive them, as I sprayed them, but now I'm taking my favorite angular brush and I'm just going over it and smoothing it down, and you can feel how hard it is. It's very, very hard, but it's slowly absorbing the water and getting more juicy. And I would like to just kind of give it a chance to reactivate and smooth out so that it grabs hold of this lovely palette. And then if I refill, you know, eventually be a really nice, joyous, beautiful representation of the color and not a block of like incredibly weird, like mud. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, that's a beautiful color. Isn't that gorgeous? So pretty. You see this paper, how obnoxious it is? Don't ever buy it. Don't ever buy it. Okay, so we're at the end of that one. Let's get some clean water here. I've got my clean water and my gray water. I have to really rinse these and wipe them because I'm really digging in there. So we want to make sure. Blue's really hard to get out. Sometimes even get the brush cleaner out. There we go. Okay. So this next one is a strange little color in here. I'm not really sure what this is. I know I don't have things like this in my palette anymore. It's more probably like an earthy tone. I have no idea what this one is. Oh, you know what this is? This is Chinese orange. I think this is a Sennelier. It's very smooth and really quite gorgeous. And when mixed with blues, it is really rather pretty. It comes up with these gorgeous, like tealy kind of greens. See what I mean? It makes a really pretty watercolor. Hope I'm doing these swatches big enough for you. So that's definitely Chinese orange, which makes me think that this next one is probably Sennelier bright red, or it's a pyrrole red. So again, these need to be worked. You see how yucky they are? They're not dirty. They're just piled up. And I like them to be a lot more smooth in these wells. It's not a big deal, but I find that when you smooth them and then let them dry, they don't crack and you don't get bits that you have to work out in a palette first, you know? So right now, the bits are coming out. So I would have to like completely take this, put it in here, and really work it to make sure that I just got watercolor. And I got a more smooth representation of it like that. But this one definitely is the Sennelier Bright Red, which is a gorgeous color. But you know, nobody ever knows what color this is made out of. But it is really, really pretty red. It comes in the tin set, you know, like the sampler pack. That's how I found out about it. And this looks like a brown, which I actually don't paint with very many browns at all. And if I do, it's more like a Van Dyke brown. I just don't paint with browns because I can mix browns, and I like the browns that I mix from greens, from blues originally, and that go into like more neutral tones. So I'll usually use like an Aussie red to develop brown. I don't normally develop a brown. Yeah, and that's just not a brown I would ever use, so I can literally get that out of there. It's like an umber. I mean, it's a decent mixing color, but I just don't use it. So unfortunately, this paint is going to go to waste because I don't even want it in there. So I'll show you how I get them out. So this has been soaking just a bit. Then I grab one of my, I'm looking for like my removers. So you can take anything basically, like a plastic card, or I'm looking for this tool that I use. It like removes stuff so much easier. I think it's under here. Oh yeah. So it's just a plastic like palette knife. And after it's soaked, I just scrape it out. It's actually like a holy terror of a mess, right? So get some tissues. If I have some. I usually just have cloths in the studio. This is one of the rare times I actually use disposables. So I'm just gonna pull it right off. You have to wet it. I mean, remember it's watercolor, so it's gonna keep giving you back. This is a very strange brown. I don't like to paint with these browns. I would rather have like a caput mortem, a neutral tint that I just add a color to. There's so many other things. Okay, so I got some of it out. Now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna leave it set with a bunch of water in it, like over water it, and then just leave it alone. And then it'll be easy to lift it out. Now this is interesting. There's more gold in here and then some purple. So that's one of those, let me just put it in the palette. This is manganese violet. I actually use this a lot for mixing. This looks like an alizarin crimson. Normally I have alizarin crimsons that are not light or that are not fugitive. So I would have to guess that this one, I don't know who this one would be by. I'll have to look. We'll have to look and consider it. Because again, this is like 4 years old. This palette is very old. And this one looks like a very, very creamy, I always keep like a sunflower yellow in my palette, even if I have to mix it. So sometimes if you run out of paint, you can mix a gorgeous sunny yellow with just whatever yellow you have, basically like your basic yellows. So if you have like a lemon yellow, you can mix it with a warm orange or a warm red, just a touch, and get that beautiful sunflower. You can also mix them with the quinacridone gold. There's the yellow. So this would be like a Hansa yellow. It could be Sophie yellow, or it could be, what else I usually use? Just lemon, Sophie or Hansa. This one just looks like it's leftovers. So it's just a little bit of the yellow mixed with a little bit of the green. Just more of a tint. So this one's gonna get clean too. We're just gonna put a bunch of water in those because I really just wanna clean them out and start over there and also here, because these are almost all gone. There's a lot of colors in this palette, right? Yeah, I hate the way that's drying. So I'm not really sure what that is. So that's more of a mixing color. This is Sennelier's light green. This is a very, very pretty color. I usually mix it with something. This is also Sennelier's phthalo turquoise. Beautiful. If you see something here that you want and you want me to give you the name and the link for the exact color, let me know, because I will go through my sheets and I'll look it up. This is dioxazine purple. This is what's left over of a turquoise. So this would be like phthalo blue. Just what's left over. This is a cobalt teal. Very, very beautiful, bright. The next one is an ultramarine. So pretty. Then this is a green, cobalt green. Lovely color. That one needs working with because it's got little bits. This I would have to guess is going to be, oh, phthalo blue shade, phthalo blue red shade. Next one looks like yellow ochre. Very like opaque yellow ochre. Then we have a beautiful bright cad orange, or this would probably be like a cad red. Let's get the shade out. So it looks like mission gold orange, which is equivalent to Cad Red Light by White Knights. Yeah, that actually looks in that corner. It looks like it's Cad Yellow in there, Golden Deep, Raw Sienna by White Knights, which I don't really use those anymore at all. I know it's not Roman Schmal. It's not going to be Schminke, because my favorite orange now, I was not painting with then, which is transparent orange. And that's why I don't really have an orange on my palette anymore, because I always mix an orange or use a mixed in gold orange, which is really, really clear and beautiful. This one's a bit too, I don't know, this one would be muddy in the mixes, so that's got to come out of there. And this last one looks like a Golden Deep, and it's really super dirty, so I'm gonna clean it. So to clean it, let me get this palette turned around for you. Okay, so to clean it, I'm actually, because it's got a little orange in there, I'm just adding clean water, which is not clean anymore. So just getting it really nice and wet with clean water. Then I'm going to dry my brush and just kind of scoop out some of the wetness. And that cleans it plenty. You're not really wasting a lot of color because there's just a lot in watercolor, and mostly this is water. So once I get it wet, I can just wipe it right off, and then you're left with the color that you were trying to get at, which should be clean now. Yep, there you go. So there's that beautiful sunflowery color. So if you want a color like that and you don't want to mix it, let's go through the color charts and I'll show you what that one is. So I believe this one is Cad Yellow, which is 201 PY35 by White Knights. Definitely. It also has a lighter tint to it if you don't paint it that heavy. And I just want to get a quick view here of, I don't believe that I custom mixed this, but nope. Yeah, I had to go back to my swatches from like 4 years ago so that I could see what I would have been painting with. So that is definitely the White Knight. Actually, these are the white knights, and these are the 3 white knights that I really don't paint with that much anymore. I do love this color though. This is really beautiful. And now that I know it's white knights, I know that it's just old, you know, because it will literally have some very nice transparent layers and it will shade out just beautifully. It's a very pretty color. So it's a great one to have by White Knights, actually. There are some by White Knights that are so pretty and so smooth and great for glazing. Just to drop in here with you, Cad Yellow 201 is right there. So it goes from like this deeper color to very transparent. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. So I'm actually gonna keep that one in the palette. The other one was Yellow Ochre, which I don't like the Yellow Ochre by White Knights. It goes down weird to me. And again, even not knowing what it was, it's definitely something I don't want to use. Then this one, Cadmium Orange by White Knights 304. You can see it, you can get it to a very, very pretty light consistency. It's made with PO20 and it's beautiful. Beautiful one. Cadmium Red Light is also a great color by White Knights. My favorite White Knight color is Carmine. I think it's gorgeous. Turquoise Blue is actually pretty as well, but doesn't re-wet as great. Then of course there's the green that everybody loves and the emerald that everybody loves. So there's some colors in here that are just so beautiful. I don't recommend Blue Lake because it doesn't re-wet well. I don't love their earth tones at all, but I do love their granulating set. It's stunning. As far as light layers, I wouldn't really advertise White Knights for the light layers. I actually would recommend Sennelier for light layers. Sennelier has incredible reds, and their reds are just so beautiful in their layering. And they have so many bright like yellows, reds, and oranges. So if you're a floral painter, you definitely want to try those. Also Mission Gold. Mission Gold has beautiful paints for layering. They have a pure pigment set and also a set that I'm always returning back to constantly. And they're so well priced for what you get. You get huge tubes of them. I have to actually finish painting these, but you can see their yellow to orange to pink range is phenomenal. It's so beautiful. So this palette is going to continue to get cleaned up there. Look at all the colors that were in that. Isn't that crazy? So many. All beautiful though. I mean, really, like, you know, you get picky when you have hundreds of watercolor on your studio desk, right? And this whole month I've been kind of really focused on finding colors that I love and just dedicated to just which colors do I really, really want to have in my palettes and represent me as an artist and ones that I'll reach for all the time. That's basically what I've been striving for with my color choices these days. I'm trying to think of if I should put, well, we could do these right now while I'm here. Since I'm talking about White Knights, I have to paint these, so let's fill these in. So I actually have all of my White Knights in this lovely set here, and I haven't labeled them yet because I am really behind on stuff like that. So this is Permanent Magenta, and it's a semi-transparent. I don't know about you, but I can never get these things open. So I literally have to get pliers. And that's why I clean them before I shut them. There we go. Just put some in there. These are highly, highly pigmented colors. Let's get some water. And let's put up some fresh water here. So even just right out of the tube, you can see how pigmented these are. And this is not even great paper. So I'm actually going to do the lighter layer, and then we'll go back and add a darker layer to it. So beautiful. And that's not even the deep. Right out of the tube. And these tubes last forever. So see how they're great for layering? They don't get clumpy or muddy. They just dance around, and you can just layer, 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 strike them over and over and over again, and they're always going to give you exactly what you're looking for. You know, they're never really going to disappoint you. You can pull those layers back and you just get a gorgeous even tone. This is why I always go back to White Nights, because, or not White Nights, but Mission Gold often when I'm doing florals, because I love their color ranges that I have on hand. And you know, literally there's 2 sets to buy. One that comes with a palette that is lovely. It's got smaller tubes of paint, so you get like an idea of their full range. And then you buy the big pigment, single pigment set, and you have everything you need for like any kind of painting, you know? So I'm just working with it to get those nice blends, and then when it dries, I will go back and see if I can get a cut shade. Actually got it there. So this is so pretty, but you can see how here on this it's dried, so it really, really needs cleaning. So I'm actually going to just add some water and lay it here on this towel, face up, let it do its crazy things. Quin Violet. Let's see if we can find it. Oxazine Violet. Quin Violet. It's PV19. They have several PV19s. Now keep in mind, these have not been opened in over a year, because I actually have a pallet of these. So just opening them and digging right out of the tube, you're getting to see how lovely this actually is. PV19, Quin Violet. Look at that, right out of the tube, how gorgeous it is. This is actually my favorite Quin Violet. You can mix this with blues and beautiful yellows. It's so pretty. And I'm just shooting for that really nice big layer there. Look at how gorgeous that is. Isn't that beautiful? Let me get you closer so you can see. So I can lift it back for a little lighter layer, just like that. Isn't that stunning? Stunning. Okay, autumn orange. So it's red orange. This is why I usually have those little, I'm gonna face these all up. This is why I usually have the little things sticking out so that I can see them. But I mean, like, look, this is pretty perfect. It's a really great way to keep an eye on your watercolors. I am totally missing that color. Okay, let's do the other orange. I think I saw it. Red orange. I'll have to look for autumn orange and we'll do it another time. Oh, look at that. This was waiting for me. It was like, hey, welcome back. And this one really does remind me, red orange, it reminds me of Schminke's transparent orange. It's my favorite orange now, but every time I open the Mission Gold one, which is happening to me right now, I am always reminded of how gorgeous this orange is and how much I want it in the palette to play with, because it's slightly different than my Schminke version. This is P073, and it's just so smooth and lovely. And when it comes to shades that you like, if you like things to be really smooth and kind of liftable, Mission Gold, I feel like really, Mission Gold and Sennelier, you could just fill your palette with Mission Gold and Sennelier, and some Schminke too. Like Schminke, well, you can't go wrong with that if you can get them. But as far as the brightness and buildable layers, Schminke, Sennelier, and Mission Gold are my buildable layer watercolors. Now, you see how that's like really dirty? We're gonna start wiping it clean with my brush with water. And I'm gonna take a rag and holding it up like this, right? And I can actually suck it back into the tube just by pushing on it. I'm just going to wipe it. Just turn it in a circle. So I'm just turning this so that it cleans it off. And that will keep it from sticking so that I don't have that issue again. So this one I had done, right? So we're gonna suck that back into the tube. See how that worked? I'm gonna actually dip it in the water. So like here's my gray water. Just dip it in the water and take a rag and holding it up so that paint doesn't leak out. I'm just turning. Yep. And then you can do it with a paper towel too. I have these rags and I just wash them all together so that it's a little better for the environment. And I also really like to use cloth rather than paper towels. I definitely don't use toilet paper. Don't ever touch your paper with toilet paper. It's the worst thing for watercolor, and oh my goodness, it can leave balls of things behind. Literally. Okay. So, dioxazine violet. Do I have that in here? Oh, there's my autumn orange. So funny. I feel like I'm playing that little game, you know? There it is. Ah, this one's stuck. You can tell these haven't been open in a while. You like my floral pliers? There we go. Yeah, this is a mess. So I'm actually gonna suck that back in and try and just work with the color on the outside here, because there's lots of it, and it will help me clean it. Then I'm gonna put this in the water and then just set it aside and let it work for a second while I paint. This is such a true and clear purple. PV23 Dioxazine Violet by Mission Gold is actually one of my favorite versions of dioxazine purple. I mean, it is just so crazy pigmented and deep. But I'm going to peel back the layers here just with some clean water so that you can see how lovely it is and easy it is to paint with. Now look, you can make a mess and literally just add a clean brush, clean damp brush, not overly wet, and just peel back the layers, and this will go to work and literally give you a smooth wash. A lot of colors, they stain so badly or they just don't play well, even on good paper. You know, and this is bad paper. But if I just add a clean damp brush, so I'm dampening my brush and then I'm dabbing it in the cloth over here, and I'm able to pull back and get those lovely purpley violet tones, and yet you have this gorgeous mass tone. Isn't that great? Let's go see that autumn orange. This is a really pretty color. Oh, I got some purple still on my brush. Hopefully it won't affect it. Beautiful. So the autumn orange is very much like Chinese orange by Sennelier. So you can choose to get either one. You know, I've never compared the two together and like really looked at the pigment information of one versus the other, or painted with one versus the other. So I would have to do a test before I could advise you on which one I would choose. I would have to say probably I would choose Sennelier over the Mission Gold version, just because I know for a fact that I use it often and I love painting with it. It was in here, it was in this set. This one, it lifts a lot easier than you would think, and I don't know, I just feel like my Chinese orange by Sennelier is a better performer for me. This one's a little harder to manage, but we'll let that dry and then we can add a glaze. One thing is these are great for glazing, so Permanent Red Deep is a beautiful color. This is the PR254. So PR254 is my favorite red, and I have it like in everything. I always order a PR254 in every brand, and even when I don't mean to, I do. I can't help myself. So, isn't it just the prettiest red? Literally. I'm gonna suck it back in there. We need to clean this off because it has all kinds of stuff going on. So this is the mass tone of it. Now this to me is like everything I wanted the Sennelier bright red to be, except that there's no pigment information. So like I'm highly attracted to the Sennelier bright red, but when you have this on hand, you have the pigment information and everything's there. You don't really think twice about using this one over the other. By far, it is one of my prettiest and most transparent reds, and I think that Mission Gold really has this one right. And I just don't really feel that I need to replace it with any other brand. But with that being said, I do have other PR254s in my palette, and I always order that color when I'm choosing my reds in all of the palettes, because I just love it. It's my most used red. But every version is slightly different, so as long as it doesn't go dry dusty or anything like that, right? It should dry vibrant. Let's clean this one off. This one's really dirty. Okay, I'm almost getting there. It's got to sit in water for a little while longer. Let's see if this purple came out. Purple did pretty good. Put the purple away. Shut that cap nice and tight. Okay. Ultramarine Light. There we go. So this is PB29. All of these are really nice light fast ratings too, by the way. Just gonna take it right off my tube. Clean the tube as I'm going here. This is a transparent, beautiful ultramarine blue. This is a great mixing color. So lovely in Mission Gold. Goes down so easily, but you know, I haven't really had too many of these that I haven't liked. PB29 is my most used color. I have it in every brand, and I can't remember one that I have been like, oh no, that's horrible. How smooth it lifts, so beautifully, no streaks at all. So I'm going to leave this area here as the darker mass tone. It's transparent, but you can build it up, especially if you let them dry. Now this is, again, I want to remind you, this is terrible paper, but look at how smooth these paints are, even on bad paper. This is why I always recommend this for students, because you can get a really nice set. You can get the set that comes with that palette that I'm always talking about. And then you can add the single pigment set to it, and these paints will last you years. I mean, I've had these for 4 years, and you can see they're all full, and I paint a lot. I had these even before I had a lot of extra watercolor. This last 2 years I've actually been buying more different brands and trying, you know, branching out of my Schmincke Sennelier and Mission Gold basics. This is Cobalt Blue 2. It's a PB28. I actually find that a lot of cobalts are really hard to paint with, but Mission Gold seems a lot easier. How are you with your cobalts? Do you use Cobalt Blue? And if so, do you have some that are a little more hard to re-wet or difficult to paint with? This is really pretty. Beautiful mixing color. It's kind of like an in-between blue shade, right? It used to be like the standard color for watercolor artists. Oh, this paper is too funny. But if I work it long enough, I can, it's just what it is it's taking its sweet time to absorb the water so I can get a nice decent wash, because this is great color. The watercolor is nothing wrong with the watercolor. It's all paper, all of a paper issue. Because you can see if I let the water go into the paper, it eventually will settle, and then the watercolor will do its thing. Okay, almost done here. So Cobalt Green Deep is a beautiful color, and Bamboo Green is also really pretty. You should see it. So let's see, Cobalt Green, let's go turquoise. Cobalt Green is so pretty. It's gonna be like the last one I pull out, right? Yeah, it is. So I just finished cleaning this one off. That's looking better. It's still pretty messy around that cap area, but there. Much, much nicer. So once you get your watercolors organized, and you know your paint colors on hand, oh, this one is a mess, then it's so much easier to paint. So this one has a lot of dry pieces on it. So I'm going to take my gray water and show you what to do. So this has like lots of dry, crusty pieces. So I'm just going to pull the color back into the tube like that, just by pinching the corners. And then I'm going to take my brush and actually clean this off in the water. I'm not really losing any color because it's watercolor. It's going to stay in there unless I flip it over. And then once the water mixes, it will start to drain out. But it literally isn't going to lose much. Needed to happen. And then, you know, if you don't clean them, they won't get a tight seal and they can dry up, especially like some of Winsor Newton colors, like the, I've had that happen with my indigo, which I love. Cobalt Green Deep. So this is definitely the one that was in the palette that we just looked at, and this is one of my favorite cobalt greens. This is PB 36, and I just love painting with this one. It's just beautiful. Actually got water. Does need some, this paper needs some time to get wet. Isn't it just the prettiest tone though? This one reminds me of a teal. So if I were going to name this one, I would call it Cobalt Teal, because it just looks like this beautiful green blue teal color. And you can mix this one and make it even more teal. So lovely. It's non-staining, so you can literally lift this one. There we go. Now they're all closing nice and tight. They needed to be cleaned badly. And bamboo green. Look at these lovely shades. Aren't they just gorgeous? So how are we doing so far? So this is a Paint With Me studio series that I have on this channel. If you stuck around this long, then certainly subscribe to the playlist for it, because it's basically just what happens in the studio. This is a full-time working watercolor studio, so I produce videos and classes and prints and original artwork. And the Paint With Me is kind of like the day-to-day routine of different things. So you'll see palette organization or different palettes that I like. You'll see me painting different things. It's kind of like more of the blog of my YouTube channel. So that's what this playlist is. You'll find a little bit of everything, just basically hanging out in the studio. And that is linked up through my website, jacquelinejacks.com. Oh, is that not gorgeous? This bamboo green. PG 36. Now, let me just remind you, the bamboo green by Mission Gold is the PG 36. If you don't recognize that, then you might not be familiar with the crazy color that White Nights has. And PG 36 by White Nights is something that everybody falls in love with. It really is. I'm trying to find it right now to see. Oh, I can't find it. It's such a beautiful color too. Yeah, I can't find it. In any case, this is that green, that lovely, lush, gorgeous green in Mission Gold. So you wouldn't think bamboo green would be a favorite. It is one of my favorite greens to paint with. I absolutely love it. It's smooth, and you can do like, even the light shade is not like a fake shade of green. It's got a little bit of like like pine color to it. It's so, so pretty. I have it next to Van Dyke green, which is more like Perylene green, and then cobalt green. Don't even get me started. You guys are gonna order these, you know you are, because they're so nice. One day we'll do a painting. I'll do some paintings featuring some of my favorite colors from this line, because you'll just go nuts. They are hard to replace for me. Like I literally am in love with Mission Gold. I haven't bought any new Mission Gold lately though, and I did hear a couple of things from people saying that some of the colors had slightly changed. So it would be interesting to buy a new set and see if anything has changed. I'll show you the palette that I recommend that you buy if you're getting started. One, these big tubes are from the single pigment set. So bamboo green is one of them, and they are all single pigment colors. So I just swatched those for you. But the Mission Gold palette itself, I'm going to be swatching in an upcoming video because I have to do the swatch over. This is actually my messy palette, so get ready to be shocked because it just is what it is. I like my messy palette. I trust Mission Gold not to be muddy, so guess what? I just dump it all in there and I paint right from it. So it takes a long time to dry, so I paint from here to get the first round of colors, and then I mix a lot together. And I have never had a problem with this. I've never not had a color I liked, even in these colors which tend to go muddy. Nope, they don't go muddy in Mission Gold. Not for me. Of course, I'm sure you could come up with a way to make them muddy, but to me, they only go to like a neutral, and I absolutely love it. So this is a palette that comes with smaller tubes, and it's a great way to get started. I love the palette arrangement. You could basically do all earth tones if you wanted, and all cools here if you wanted, like maybe just get them so that if they do combine, you actually end up with colors you like, which happens here a lot. It's delicious. I love this palette. I do. It's so nice. It's so lovely to paint with. And then get the single pigment set as extras, and literally you will have such a juicy, fun painting experience, really. Okay, so that's my hour. It's time for my coffee. That was my relaxation of the day. I thank you so much for meditating with me as I just finished off painting those beautiful swatches. I love them so much. If you do decide to get any Mission Gold, please use my affiliate link because I can do a giveaway and award some people in my channel membership for being so generous. Have a great day, you guys, and don't forget to leave me a comment below and subscribe if you liked this video.